decided to apply for a job at the Office of Equity and Inclusion at the University of Washington, Tacoma. Should they ask for it, this is my cover letter. To whom it may concern. I am applying to the Program Support Supervisor 1 position in the Office of Equity and Inclusion. As a former philosophy lecturer at the University of Washington, Tacoma, I have been present for a lot of discussion of diversity, equity, and inclusion at UWT during faculty meetings. These discussions range from what diversity is, whether ideological diversity is important, and what equity means. All of this gives me valuable insight I can bring to the Office of Equity and Inclusion's table as a support supervisor. My experience and conversations with UWT students provide further grist for the mill, making me a strong candidate for this position. My time occupying the position of ethics lecturer at the University of Washington, Tacoma began in 2014 when conversations surrounding diversity, equity, and inclusion picked up at college campuses nationwide. Frankly, I was openly critical of many of these discussions because the meaning of diversity was never pinned down, and the meaning of equity often seemed insidious. Were we talking about consciously selecting racially diverse faculty, staff, and students in violation of Washington state law? Were we talking about the abysmal lack of ideological diversity present on our campus and on campuses generally? After all, numerous studies, and particularly the work of New York University professor Jonathan Haidt, show a distinct left-leaning and even Marxist bias in the humanities and social sciences that lead to demonstrable research methodological errors and thus faulty studies. Moreover, as the primary purpose of the University of Washington system is to serve the people of this state, and ideological bias steadily marginalizes Eastern Washington's political culture, this bias is all the more a problem from even a multicultural point of view. I should know. I was at the meetings. As talk about groups like Black Lives Matter picked up and discussions of microaggressions accelerated, I discovered that many students, faculty, and administrators were ignorant of not only the demographic breakdown of the state, but of UWT itself. In a meeting 2 years ago, in response to a set of Black Lives Matter demands, there was much talk of inequitable outcomes, even of institutionalized white supremacism across campus. This would suggest that whites are overrepresented relative to the population, and it appeared that this was the common view. However, the demographic breakdown of the state is 71.6% white, 11.7% Hispanic, 7.5% Asian, 3.7% biracial, 3.6% black, 1.3% native, and a little less than 1% Pacific Islander. The breakdown on campus that academic year was 46.7% white, 19.2% Asian, 9.8% black, 10% Hispanic, 2.2% Native American, 2.1% Hawaiian or Pacific Islander, and 5.4% international. This year, enrollment was 44% white, 21.3% Asian, 10.3% black, 12.4% Hispanic, 1.9% Native American, 2.3% Hawaiian or Pacific Islander, and 5.6% international. At UWT, whites are underrepresented, whereas Asians and blacks are overrepresented. Similar results obtain across the entire UW system. I pointed out that these are not numbers indicative of institutionalized white supremacism or an equity crisis, and that the direction of our equity discussion, including pushing against 1998's passage of Initiative 200, barring race, gender, and ethnicity from admissions and hiring decisions at the university, was misguided. Yet, in spite of this, we see no end of equity initiatives, diversity mantra chanting, and hate has no home here signs. This word equity is an odd one, and my education as a philosopher is relevant to parsing it out. Book 5 of Aristotle's Nicomachean Ethics mentions epieikeia, translated as equity, as opposed to strict justice. Epieikeia is an attitude of justice that allows us to think through particular cases that may be badly served by the application of man-made universal rules as found in ordinary law. However, Marxist understandings of equity indicate the application of a general rule, or rather, a presumption of equal outcomes across demographic groups. Whether this equality is to be strictly tied to demographic representation or to favor subaltern groups often remains opaque. Deviation, though, is presumed to stem from racism, sexism, and so on, irrespective of individual human differences and decisions. This is what we are seeing at the university. As philosopher Robert Nozick has shown us, this attitude requires perpetual interference in people's lives, and as Alexander Solzhenitsyn demonstrates, embracing the logic of this kind of thing is the first step to the gulag. My assistance as an instructor to downtrodden students and students from underrepresented groups is concrete and equitable in the Aristotelian sense. In 2015, I stepped into the breach of the slow-to-help disabled student services to provide a blind student with manipulatives for doing Venn diagrams. I wrote a letter to INS to keep an international student from getting deported, and I have written numerous letters of recommendation for women, students from underrepresented backgrounds, as well as white males, in accordance with genuine merit and intellectual promise. I have maintained positive relationships with a sexual minority scholar with whom I trade academic work on a regular basis because I find it important to better understand the concerns of sexual minorities and refine my own judgments in light of that understanding. I also have helped conservative and libertarian students navigate an often hostile academy. This was particularly important after the presidential election when some professors broke down in the classroom. It was important after the rioting at the Seattle campus on the occasion of Milo Yiannopoulos' visit this past winter, and it was important in the wake of the Hypatia-Tuval controversy this past spring. Hypatia, of course, is a journal of feminist philosophy based out of the Seattle campus. Additionally, I have brought liberal and conservative students into constructive dialogue. In line with these concrete efforts to help actual students and strengthen the campus community, working with UWT's Pantry program, part of the program support supervisor's duties, is especially appealing to me. This program provides concrete help to and engagement with actual students to provide food and hygiene supplies that the circumstances of life have otherwise moved beyond their grasp. The work I have discussed and my enthusiasm for the Pantry program demonstrates an equitable attitude in the Aristotelian sense, the sense leading to a cohesive polity, rather than the work camp and the re-education center. Clearly, I can bring a valuable perspective to the Office of Equity and Inclusion, unless, of course, the university has seen fit to define this office along ideological lines, in violation of Article 9, Section 4 of the Washington State Constitution prohibiting sectarian influence or control of public educational institutions. Given my extensive teaching experience at the University of Washington-Tacoma, my consequent experience with discussions of equity and diversity at the university, and my interest in helping both UWT's Pantry program and my Aristotelian, anti-Marxist conception of equity, I am an excellent candidate for the Program Support Supervisor position, or any position in the Office of Equity and Inclusion. Thank you for considering my application.